Welcome to the Green Wisdom Health Podcast with Dr. Stephen and Janet Lewis, where you will learn about natural solutions to common ailments. And now, here are your hosts, Dr. Stephen and Janet Lewis.
Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the Green Wisdom Health Show. I'm Janet Lewis.
Hey, and I'm Dr. Lewis.
And we are going to entertain you today and hopefully educate you a little bit about signs and symptoms that your body may be giving you to let you know you may be headed for a problem way before you have a problem. So the name of this show is called Is Your Service Engine Oil Light On? Brought to you by Dr. Lewis. That was his wonderful title. So Dr. Lewis, can you tell us a little bit about what you're going to explain today?
I never know. You know, it goes down so many rabbit trails, but we have to remember that out of the fullness of the heart, the mouth speaks. And we're in unprecedented times here in America and all over the world, and I personally think it's contrived. But, you know, the thing about it is you can still choose to be healthy. You can still choose to be happy. You can still choose to uplift other people. Now's the time when we need to be kind. We need to, you know, go buy somebody's coffee. We need to do something to bless other people. Besides what's going, besides what's going on in the world, you know, it's more important, in my opinion, to think for yourself more than any other time. You know, information used to double every 50 years, or it had doubled every 50 years in 1950. Now, by 1980, it's doubled every 7 years, and now every 3.5 years in 2010. It's on the rate to double every 73 days, and that's about where we are. So we're getting an information overload, and I tell people, stay the heck off Google, because all you're going to do is get confused, and it's going to put fear and doubt in your heart. Use that little discerning spirit. Use that little soft thing that talks to you. One of my favorite preachers says, well, you know, if it's not right, you'll get a little scritchy feeling. I said, yeah, define scritchy. He thought that was funny. So don't get overloaded with too much information. We try to give you some so that you have the power to make good choices, but more importantly, and I've said this many times, use your discerning spirit. If what we do feels right to you and your intuition says it's the right thing, just do it and continue with it. And I'll tell you how important it is. I was talking to Eric and Kara yesterday from Indiana, and they're really, really sweet people. You know, Kara has a little bit more problems than most people, but she has been wise enough to stick with it for years and years and years and years, and she's getting better and better and better. And not only just doing our lab work and taking the supplements for years, she did our specialty testing and found out what she was had allergies or sensitivities to, and she said, I was mad, she said, because I couldn't eat anything. And she says, now that I've quit eating those things, she said, I've obviously begun to feel better. And Katerina said the same thing up in Massachusetts. I couldn't eat anything, but now when I quit these things, I got better. So we do have tests that go beyond where we start with the lab work. So with all this information, don't allow it to confuse you.
I do get tickled at that test, though. It's the food sensitivities and gluten test, the wheat test. It's, you know, like Dr. Lewis said, it's one of our specialty tests, and people are like, well, what does it test for? And I say, well, it kind of tells you what you're allergic to and, you know, what foods that even though they may be good, they may not be good for you. Which ones you can or shouldn't. It
doesn't test your spouse, though.
Yeah, and if you should stay away from them. And every single person that's done it, they do these steps. Oh my gosh, that's expensive. Next step. Oh my gosh, I can't eat anything. Next step. I'm mad. I don't want to do this. I don't like what it came up with. Fourth step. Oh my gosh, I feel better. I cannot believe I didn't do this sooner. Every single person. It is so funny to watch. So I tell them up front now, that's what you're going to get with it. And you know, and when we do this show today, we're giving you symptoms to watch for, signs your body may be telling you something. y'all have enough to decide right now what's going on. If you want to shortcut this, if you get a symptom like this and you're thinking, I don't know where to start, for those of you that don't know what we do, we actually can run lab work and help you take the guesswork out and show you what your body's doing, because we're looking at optimal levels. We're not just looking at crisis situations. We don't just run a couple of panels of lab based on your crisis. We're running 12, 14, 16 panels of lab so we don't guess at what's wrong. And then we shore up the weakness with good nutrition. And amazingly, a lot of these symptoms we're getting ready to tell you about start to disappear. Not overnight, not like medicine, but slowly. So if you've had these symptoms that we talk about for a long, long time, you can figure it takes 3 months minimum with nutrition to start changing the speeding bus that's going down the hill and backing it back up. And then it's a month for every year you've had it. So you have to give nutrition a little bit more time to work, not like medicine where it just cuts your engine oil light, right?
Absolutely.
So our first symptom to watch carefully for, which many people have, are headaches and migraines.
Yeah, she's going back to the spouse now.
No. Sometimes it's things you're eating. I don't know. Dr. Lewis is going to explain it, but if your head's constantly throbbing, inflammation may be the cause. Not only are migraines and frequent headaches painful, but they can also be precursors to more serious conditions. So Dr. Lewis, please tell us about headaches.
Well, one thing, once you start on a program to try to get your body back to normal where it can get itself healthier, 2, 3, 4 weeks into it's not the time to say, well, let's make a deal. Well, what do I really need? And I have to tell, and I've told this to many different people, you said this and your lab said that, and I just cannot live with myself if I give you halfway effort, either go big or go home. And I know that's sometimes tough. Changes are sometimes uncomfortable. Good changes can be. So, love yourself enough to do it.
Well, and I get sometimes there's financial things too.
There is.
But, our job is to tell you what we see. And if we tell you the things we see on your lab and then you ask us to pick which ones are important, to us it's like, well, it was all important or we wouldn't have run the lab. So it's up to you, I guess, to decide what things you think you want to work on the most. And
then they get on Google and say, well, Dr. Lewis, this person said detox. I said, I've got you on detox every which way but Sunday. I mean, we're doing this. We're doing it indirectly. We're doing it directly. Don't worry, I've got you covered. And so, and the other thing, I got a call yesterday. Lady says, well, this is going on with my husband. I said, well, you need to go back to your primary care physician, which is exactly what Brandy had already told her. She said, well, he didn't get any help. I said, well, our medical profession is really, really good. And some of these things Janet and I are going to talk about, you also need a second, third, fourth opinion sometimes. Because this guy, I said, well, yeah, he may get better by taking this and this. And it may be overgrowth of yeast because he was on doxycycline, but, and I told this lady, I said, what if it's stomach cancer or pancreatic cancer? Go back to another MD while you're doing my stuff. Nothing is 100%. So,
right, there's very much times that there needs to be medical intervention.
Yes.
And we're not that. And this lady was kind enough to say, but Dr. Lewis is so smart. He always figures everything out. And I thought, yeah, he really is. But he doesn't know
I'm a smart ass is what it is, really.
Yeah.
But all right, back to headaches. And I'm not talking about your husband. Many things it can be hypomethylation, and you hear me talk about that, the patients do, because your liver is not detoxing because you need B vitamins. And I don't care if you eat totally organic and eat perfect, which is good. You can't eat junk and expect our supplements to help that much. But even eating organic, you never get all the nutrients that you need to totally detox. So hypomethylation And that's in some major cancer research says in all cases of cancer you have hypomethylation, which just means you don't get the B vitamins to allow your liver to detox. Toxic environments, toxic proteins cause inflammation in the brain that lead to amyloid formation. And Janet wanted me to talk about our turmeric complex. Well, you can use turmeric for all sorts of inflammation. I use it for my brain and to slow down or stop these amyloid proteins. Pesticides are toxic to the brain. Journal of Environmental Health Perspectives. Pesticides lead to Parkinson's. That's from Journal of Neurology, Journal of Environmental Health Perspectives. A weakness in the sulfation pathway of detoxification of the liver leads to brain inflammation. Well, that's why people say, I feel better because I'm taking glucosamine, chondroitin, and MSM because it has sulfur in it, and it increases the sulfation pathway where you've got methylation, glucuronidation, etc., etc. So it's a very incredibly varied thing, and it is super, super complicated. So let Janet and me make the decisions for you. And this only works if you have the trust and have the faith. But it's always inflammation. That's always, always, always part of the equation. Now, where it is and why it's there, that's for us to figure out. And then I tell you, you know I do, throw it in, let God sort it out. You've made a good choice. Now it's only up to your faith and your consistent action, which means take the stuff. Take it. Kara's been taking it for years and years and years and years.
So in general, because I know I've heard you answer this a million times, but people may not have heard it.
You're lucky.
When someone comes in and tells you they have migraines or they have headaches, what are the supplements that you would start with?
I'm a chiropractor. I want to adjust them, but the supplements, it's almost always a lack of magnesium and serotonin, which would be the 5-HTP. Almost always.
And then you have people that say, well, I've tried magnesium citrate, gives me diarrhea. Is that the one you're talking about?
You know, I tried a woman once, and she sure as hell wasn't the same as what Janet is. They're all different. Citrate gathers too much water for some people and increases bowel motility. You only want to do citrate if you're kind of sluggish in your colon. So, you know, all supplements are not the same. Janet gave me a big stink eye on that one.
And other parts of that is try to eat more organic proteins like grass-fed beef and get more fibrous foods, because we have noticed when people do like a lot of gluten,
processed foods,
they'll get more headaches.
Yeah.
So
now it comes out of inflammation of the gut, which we're going to get to in another.
I ain't got there yet.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about
ma'am.
Teeth now. Teeth and gums, bad breath, and gingivitis.
Sound like the making of a good song.
Yeah, so lots of people are constantly worried about their bad breath or have been diagnosed with gingivitis. And inflammation may be to blame. But these periodontal diseases begin as bacterial infections that progress into inflammation. So, Dr. Lewis, can you tell us what your teeth and gums and bad breath have to do with a warning sign for your body?
Well, you know, there's plenty of good research that says if you have inflammation of the gums, that you have a much greatly increased chance of cardiovascular disease, which may be as simple as high blood pressure, which that may be simple, but it's dangerous as heck. It may be other worse problems with your heart. Because there's inflammation of something that's called endothelium, and that's a number of cells that's in your body that's really, they're genetically programmed to be the lining of the arteries, basically. When they're inflamed, they put out different chemicals, as it can be homocysteine, and if it's high, I know you need B12, and it's got to be a good B12, and C-reactive protein. We routinely check C-reactive protein because, according to the Cleveland Clinic, I'm talking fast because I've got too much to get to. The Cleveland Clinic says C-reactive protein is 4 times better indicator of future heart attack and stroke than your cholesterol numbers.
Okay, so as far as things for your teeth and gums, is there specific products you recommend? I know I like Young Living Thieves mouthwash.
Yes. And sometimes we do a little of the silver. We've got a silver that actually does not hurt your good probiotics. Most silvers, all but one, will kill your good probiotics. Oh, and I had a lady come in one time. She said, well, I have bad breath. And I said, well, da-da-da-da-da-da, it's your colon. She didn't stick with the program because she thought the problem was where the symptom was. Folks, the pain is usually not where the problem is, or the symptom is usually something that's secondary to another organ, having a problem. So, use your intuition, stick with the program, and it was a gut problem because she only pooped once every 3 weeks.
Yeah, and that was my next inflammation problem, gut diseases.
I didn't know that.
Including IBS and leaky gut. Well, I actually had a girl yesterday that she texted me. She goes, oh, my gosh, I hurt so bad. What do you have? And I said, have you been eating gluten?
We knew that was an issue with her.
Yeah, and she said, well, I'd stopped it, and then I just had like a little bit. And
I just had a little bit of arsenic this morning and cyanide, too.
And I said,
I'm sorry. There it goes, the smart ass again.
And I said, Dr. Lewis has gotten so bad that when he does just a little bit of it, it takes him literally a week to get over it.
Yeah,
and
writhing at night.
And so a lot of people don't even realize that's what's wrong with them. But if you have that kind of thing, suspect that first, right?
Yeah, and there's plenty of people that said IBS and leaky gut and all that, and the gluten problem doesn't exist. Well, just because you don't have it doesn't mean it doesn't exist in other people. That's like saying cancer doesn't exist because I don't have it. It's like, well, come on. Be sympathetic to these people that genetically show different signs and symptoms than you do.
Well, as far as leaky gut, inflammation of the gut, what would you tell someone that felt like they just had horrific symptoms in their stomach of gut pain?
Well, first of all, I found it out through our specialty testing. I found out it was gluten. I take a whole bunch of GI support, which is L-glutamine, and glutamine is famous for helping the cells of your GI tract kind of regrow much more quickly, and this has a fiber, inulin, and D-acetylglucosamine. Remember when I said sulfation pathway of the liver is through some of the ingredients in glucosamine, chondroitin, and MSM, so that opens up liver pathways also. But I do a lot of that. And this lady, we love her dearly, but she's not to the point where she wants to avoid gluten. Well, if I go to your house and you've got cake or pie, I say, thank you very much, can't do it.
Well, and Brandy has had it since she was very young, and she said she can just have it mixed or have been been cooked in something before.
One extra noodle that's not gluten-free.
And she's doubled over in pain on the floor, so she very much gets there's a gluten problem, which is why she's been so helpful to all the people down here trying to help them know what to eat or what not to eat, because she's had it so long, she's gotten pretty good at making selections.
And we're seeing these symptoms and diseases much earlier at people that are much younger age because they're being born with broken or weaker genetics. Before you get pregnant, you need to clean out and do all kinds of things in order to be healthier.
And this lady, she goes, well, what do I do? I said, we always tell people we've got a product called Serenade that helps with gluten, that helps once you've had it. We tell them probiotics. We tell them digestive enzymes. When Dr. Lewis has it bad and he hurts, we do something called GastroMend because it helps absorb the toxins in the gut.
She told me that was the name of a bourbon.
Oh, I might have mixed it in there. It might have been a little dark. But there's a lot of stuff you can do. She goes, well, I do the digestive essentials. I said, when your stomach hurts like that, you need to be doing something like every 2 to 3 hours. It's not like, let's just take it once a day. It's not going to get better.
Or Digest Ease, which is the mastic gum, and DGL. DGL is famous for soothing the lining of the intestine, small intestine and large intestine. And the mastic gum, it's really good for suppressing or possibly even killing H. pylori.
Okay, how about mood swings and anxiety? I know people think that that's something that's they've had all their lives, and it's not a warning sign. It doesn't have anything to do with the price of tea. I was going to say in China, but maybe it does. Nowadays, it may have something to do with that, with mood swings and anxiety. But if you've been extra moody lately, you may be surprised that inflammation could be playing a role. Research has shown that inflammatory cytokines, or proteins released by cells, can spur depression-like behavior. So Dr. Lewis is going to tell us why inflammation has got something to do with us not being in a great mood mentally.
Well, and it goes back to the gut, because the gut, is very responsible for bringing the neurotransmitters, or what I call the happy hormones, back to the brain. But you have to have B6 to do that. And who gets enough B6? And I've got...
Is that pantothenic acid?
No, that's B5. That calms your adrenals down and makes your husband look nicer.
Like B complex.
Yeah, it's in the B complex in a big way. And we've got a new product that's going to come later that's going to be super inclusive with that. I don't know. You got to fix the guts. You've got to fix the liver. We take lots and lots of stuff. You can start simply by taking L-theanine. One of the things, because we're stressed because of what's going on in the world right now, even if you're not paying attention, you're feeling the stress. The Stress Adapt. This is a kick butt, oh my God, piece of God in a bottle. It's got bacopa. Now, bacopa is famous for helping to balance hormones, but it's also a brain cleanser, brain tonic. It's got ashwagandha, it's got rhodiola, L-therio root extract, and then it has the theanine, and it's the right kind. It's the most absorbable. And then it has phosphatidylserine, which is really good for rebuilding the brain and putting the fire out, the inflammation of the brain. Stress Adapt is like, oh my God, really, really good stuff.
On the website, we don't have a picture of it yet, but the name is there. We've changed some of our product names and some of the ingredients in some, so you'll see different pictures, but things you might have been buying before, you'll also see that name beside it. Before it was called Adrena Boost, we just renamed it to Stress Adapt because we thought it fit more appropriately, because Dr. Lewis saw people really getting better on it with mood issues and anxiety. One other thing,
they said I'm less grouchy when I take it.
But does fish oil have anything to do with the anxiety and depression, that kind of stuff? Oh,
very well could be. And, you can't get a group to agree on anything, but all of us nutrition people agree that fish oil, and it's got to be a good one. There are definitely some bad ones out there, but fish oil, with the DHA in it, helps rebuild the brain and, again, puts the fire out. It takes, chemically, it takes about 2 weeks before the anti-inflammatory processes begin to be noticeable. So, be patient. Again, with depression, it's the toxins that can mimic estrogen activity, which you hear me talk about, and that's from Journal of American Medical Association and Journal of Science. Yes, I read a lot of this stuff, and thank God I've got a good memory because Janet gives me all kinds of stuff. I don't know what she gives me. PMS becomes worse with lack of vitamin B. That's from Lancet, or the Journal of Lancet. Postpartum depression due to low levels of vitamin B. We covered that with a hypomethylation. The second brain, that's the gastrointestinal tract, because they say 95% of the serotonin is found in the GI tract, and that's where you get your serotonin comes from 5-HTP, but you have to have the B6 for it to cross the blood-brain barrier, and it has to be a good B6. There's actually research that says, and I've said this one several times, we can cause schizophrenia through gut irritation. The admissions in World War II, the mental health admissions plummeted drastically when there was a bread shortage, and people couldn't get bread, and they quit going crazy and having all kinds of mental aberrations.
So they're predicting that again for our future, so perhaps maybe we'll get our minds back if we take out all the wheat, the genetically modified wheat.
Yeah.
Oh, that's not possible, is it? Not genetically modified.
That's what they say.
Yeah, no. So, sleep disorders and insomnia, because who's not having that? Tossing and turning at night can be attributed to inflammation. And persistent insomnia afflicts about 10% of American adults and have serious consequences.
Yeah, well, it's about 90% of everybody I talk to, so I don't know where they get that 10%. Maybe they're just not talking.
And talk about being irritable real fast when you don't sleep. That's probably the number one thing we see in here is like, uh-oh, they ain't had any rest. So what can we do about that? And what has that got to do with, how's that a warning sign?
Well, number one, your brain goes downhill and ages much more quickly, and you can it accelerates the amyloid plaquing, which I told you I take turmeric complex and several other things for that because, I know I've got dementia in my future, but I think it's going to be when I'm 95 because we're putting things in, and I can tell a huge difference with my mental clarity and acuity. The thing I take a lot of is melatonin SR. That stands for sustained release. It's a 2 milligrams, so that way you can titrate the dosage very easily and find out how much you need. Janet needs about 20% of what I need. I guess because she's prettier, but she takes 1 and I take 4, sometimes 5 if I feel a little bit testy. So melatonin is really good. I take magnesium. Now you can take the citrate if you want to increase the bowel motility, or you can take our other magnesium, which is kind of a slow release. It's a really good formula. Basically, I take both just because.
Okay, well that's good. All right, so we've covered how we're going to go to sleep better and stay asleep now. And that melatonin stuff does work because we have, like y'all might have heard before, we got a new sleep number bed. It has a app on it to tell you how you slept, so we don't even know what. I'll wake up in the morning and say, did you sleep good? He goes, I don't know, ask the app because it'll tell you what you've done. And what I've noticed, because he was taking this melatonin all the time, and it was like, well, he had a better, heart rate variability.
Yeah.
And I thought, how come is his so good and mine's not that great? Which means immune system was better, stamina was better. And I thought, we do the same things, but he was taking this extra melatonin. So I added 1 in, and mine has been consistently higher as well. So there's something to it about it not being like a anti-aging youth hormone type thing.
Yeah, and when cherries are in season, eat cherries because that helps you with melatonin. And I eat a lot of cherries, but people say, well, I don't want to take melatonin because my body should produce it. It's like, well, it doesn't. So you're going to accelerate aging and disease processes if you're not getting good, restful sleep.
Yeah, I'm really impressed with that. I was shocked. And you talk about eating cherries because our next section is about arthritis and stiff joints being inflammatory mechanisms of telling you something may be going on. People with these symptoms, they need a way to reduce joint pain naturally. So how are having inflammatory arthritic type symptoms correlated to a problem down the road?
Well, what happens is, it's the quintessential inflammatory disease, if you'll let me put it that way. Our immune systems usually become so confused that it starts to attack our joints. Arthritis is an autoimmune disease. Of course, me being a chiropractor, I would deal mostly with osteoarthritis, the wear and tear, the mechanical arthritis. But then you have rheumatoid, and we're seeing more and more often people with different types of arthritis, and it's related to the GI tract also. You've got degenerative arthritis or osteoarthritis. That's from trauma. That's what most chiropractors and physical therapists are very good at. You have rheumatoid, that's autoimmune. You have infectious arthritis. That's when you better get your butt to the MD. They do some really good work with that to avoid some of the bad side effects, because that can be very, very quick when that organism invades the joint directly.
Aren't there drugs, too, sometimes that are causing people to have joint pain? I know some of the cholesterol.
Yeah, I was talking to Jerry in Michigan the other day, and he says, well, I'm getting a little bit better as we go. Is that because I quit the statin drugs or because of my supplements? I said, well, probably both. And I'm not anti-statin drug, but I'm not a big worrier about cholesterol. There's too much research that says it's overblown. The turmeric complex is really, really good. But we're seeing more autoimmune diseases, and this is coming from the GI tract, like systemic lupus, Reiter syndrome, Crest syndrome, polymyalgia, rheumatism. We got temporal arthritis, you got psoriasis. We see a lot of people with the Sjogren's syndrome that have dry mucous membranes. And well, if things are drying up that should be moist, you might talk to your rheumatologist about that. So there's a lot of different ones.
And fish oil is another one that really helps with that as well, right?
Yeah, I like the omega-9 joint, but a regular, because that's the omega-3, 6s, and 9s, but just a straight omega-3 fish oil can very much help also.
A good fish oil.
Yeah.
Because you got a lot of people that say, I take fish oil, but my joints still hurt. So I think there's very specific things there.
Yeah.
But I hope that you might have learned something today about inflammation and why you might want to pay attention to it before you have a full-blown problem, because your body does give you warning signs, kind of like your vehicle does when you don't do anything about that and then wait for it to die. But Dr. Lewis, I'm sure, has some words of wisdom that he would like to impart with us today to make us feel better for the week.
Well, I do have words. You can judge whether they're wise or not. Always remember that physical symptoms don't always have physical origins, and that's why we talk about how we think and what we put into our minds. One of the best things you can do, join Shooting Straight with Dr. Lewis, and I'll put on some inspirational things.
It's on Facebook, right?
Yeah, Facebook, whatever that is. And, I said this the other day, but I think it bears repeating, that nothing real can be threatened. Nothing real or nothing unreal exists. Therein lies the peace of God. So, the purpose of life is not really to be happy. It's to be useful, to be honorable, to be compassionate, to have it make a difference that you've lived and lived well. That means uplifting other people. And I think if we concentrated more on just doing one thing a day for someone else, then you'll discover a passion that you're looking for.
And for those of you that don't know where to start, go to greenwisdomhealth.com, fill out the health survey. It will suggest a lab to you. You can get started that way. You don't even have to talk to us. And
why would you not want to talk to Janet?
Well, I don't know. Some don't want to talk. They'd rather just do it online. But we're here, too. There's a phone number there. And we can help you get started and start having a life worth living. We'll be here next time on the Green Wisdom Health Show. You guys have a very blessed week.
Once again, our show has come to an end, but your hope in your health is only beginning. If you or a loved one are in need of a different outcome and are waiting for a brighter future, take the first step and go to our website and fill out the health survey. Please don't keep us a secret. If you know someone that could benefit from this podcast, please share this show with your friends and family. You are only one step away from a life worth living.